Hello and welcome to a very special interview. Today I'm in the Israeli embassy and I'm joined by the Israeli Deputy Ambassador, Alon Roth-Sneer. Alon, it's a pleasure to be here with you inside this very grand building, which is the Israeli embassy. How did you decide that you wanted to be a career diplomat in the Israeli Foreign Ministry?
Oh, to say the truth, I never decided. It was decided for me. I'm an engineer in my profession, and I came to diplomacy, I would say, by mistake. Joined the ministry, did a cadet course, and, year after year and after year, and I found myself after several years as a career diplomat. So in a way, it was not a natural dream that was fulfilled by myself later after several years, but it was gradually some kind of life process for me.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, looking at your CV, which is extremely interesting, and also the jobs you've had. Can you describe some of the postings you've had? I mean, first of all, your first posting was in Cameroon and Africa. I'm sure that was an experience very different from being in Israel. Then there's also, he talks about here from 1999 to 2000, Regional Security Division, Head of Division, Terror and Proliferation Division, you're head of that division. Brussels mission to the EU, Minister of the Council, the Deputy Head of Mission, plus you're part of the National Defence College in Israel, and Minister in Jordan as well, before your posting here in London.
You remind me of the big question in the foreign ministry in Israel and elsewhere as well, in most of the foreign ministries. What is best to do for a career diplomat? To have a track of one issue, one geographical continent that is your expertise, or to have a wider point of view on things? I think that I chose the second one, and I'm very happy about it. As you say, I began in Africa many years ago. I've done many things later on in the more advanced continents, but I would say that I still keep these African notions in myself of a very interesting work on the ground with people, helping people, sending them to Israel to acquire very needed basic skills, whether in kindergarten, not high politics, whether in agriculture, not big economics, and still taking them back to, seeing them back coming to Africa, helping their own communities, helping the small village here and there. I felt in a way like a Tarzan helping those people, and it leaves inside a very good feeling of being, again, not just a diplomat that is dealing in high politics and big economic treaties, but someone who can do things on the ground as well. It was 25 years ago, but still I keep it as a memory. The other fields I've worked in really are very beneficial and very important for the work I'm doing today here in Britain, whether it's proliferation, whether it's counterterrorism, whether it's economics, the European Union. I find here in London that whatever I did in my previous capacities elsewhere, especially in the Arab world, in Jordan, is very beneficial here, very helpful, make me better understand the issues that Britain is confronted with, and Israel as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. You've got a posting here as the Deputy Israeli Ambassador here in the UK. But what were some of the? I mean, what does it mean for you to actually serve in that position for Israel, and what does Israel mean to you?
I think that serving here in London is a very big opportunity for me, really, to serve in one of the most important countries in the world and one of the most important capitals and cities of this world, whether in Europe, in the European Union, and whether when we check the whole international arena. I think that Britain, until today, is a very heavyweight player in the world. I think that there is a chance to meet here a Jewish community, a very vibrant Jewish community, a very vibrant and important Christian communities that I'm very happy to work with, very happy to learn how to work with. I'm here for less than 5 months only, so I'm still on my initiation and learning process. I hope it won't be too long. But I find that working in Britain is in a way a very natural step for an Israeli diplomat who is working in order to help Israel encounter the very basic, the very problematic, the very important issues it encounters. And it's not only the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it's other issues that are related to Israel, whether economic, whether social, whether issues that we might have the chance to speak about, like delegitimization of Israel that became a very new problematic phenomenon. And I think that I have a huge chance to serve here in very interesting times in this very interesting city.
I mean, we've heard recent news reports suggesting that the Palestinian leadership under Mahmoud Abbas has been preparing for a unilateral declaration of an independent Palestinian state and has won the support of many countries within the European Union as well as many countries in South America, and it seems to be gaining momentum. What would a declaration of independence of a Palestinian state mean for Israel, and what are the short-term and also long-term consequences if they take this course of action?
I think it's a very sad occurrence. I think that when I have a problem with someone, there are two ways to deal with it. One is to sit with him, with her, and deal with the problem itself, to try to reach the basics of it and try to find a solution. And the other way is just to say, I'm right, and I'll go to my friends and they will say how right I am. But then the problem is still on the table. I think that the Palestinians, unfortunately, are taking the second step if they are going to continue with this unilateral declaration of independence. Because even if they are going to do that, is it going to solve the real problems that we have on the table? Is it going to solve the question of Jerusalem that is so important for Jews, Christians, Muslims, and others? Is it going to solve the question of lands? Is it going to solve the issues that are related to Judea and Samaria? Is it going to solve the question of terrorism, of very extreme Islam that is endangering the Palestinian Authority and Israel and the whole region as a whole, not to mention the international community? I don't think so. I think that the Palestinians, unfortunately, instead of coming back and sitting together with Israel around this round table, with the Americans, with the Europeans, without direct negotiations. I mean, there are several venues, possible venues, but those are venues in which we can dwell inside into the real problems. Artificially, to have a declaration and then to say, I'm the right guy, doesn't mean that the other side will accept it. And I think that most of the advanced world will not accept such things and will still push the Palestinians to come back to the negotiation table, as Israel is ready to do tomorrow.
I mean, it's Israel's long-term, it's all Israel craze really, is peace in the Middle East. Do you believe that Israel can achieve a full and comprehensive peace with the Palestinians, and at the same time they're not preparing their people for peace? I mean, we look at the Palestinian education system. It's full of hatred and incitements against Israel, against Jewish people. We also see the Palestinian media broadcast and incite hatred and violence against Israelis and against Jewish people, and also sermons as well. We're seeing many imams in many mosques across the Palestinian territories, calling for jihad against Israel. So how can Israel achieve a peace when their neighbours are in a peace process but yet are not preparing the long term for raising up generations, instead of filling them with hate, instead of teaching them to coincide with the Jewish people?
Simon, in a very interesting way, the second part of the question is for me the answer for the first part of the question, because there is no doubt that because of this, Israel has to have peace with the other side. And more than that, the other side has to have peace with Israel in order to confront these very heavy questions that you have just enumerated. I mean, the extreme Islam is not just an enemy of Israel, is not just an existential